Contrary to popular belief, writers are not an authority on comic books. They never have been, they never will be. Sure, they write the comic books and it's their ideas that create the stories, but outside the stories themselves, they really hold no weight. This conversation is being sparked by a recent tweet and comic book release from Tom Taylor. The newest issue of Detective Comics has the Bat family and the Arrow family team up and compete. And because of an interesting decision by Tom Taylor, many fans have reached out to him on Twitter and he reacted very interestingly. In this video, I'm going to be using this as a stepping stone to go over why writers as a whole don't have much credibility. For those of you who don't know, I'm Abyss from Hive Mind Comics, and let's dive into the video. So let's take a look at Tom Taylor's original tweet. When a fan points out how Tom Taylor's writing is inconsistent, Taylor states that Black Canary is in fact better than Batman, and so is Cassandra Cain. Doubling down upon this, stating that this is canon, not his opinion. The problem with this is that it's not canon. It's never been canon. The only actual established fight that they had, Batman won. The comic goes out of its way to establish the fact that Dinah has all of her skills and Batman is still superior. Fast forward to more recent years, their inverse suggests Batman is still better. Take Deathstroke, for example, a character that admits that Bruce would defeat him, and DC Comics themselves, through guidebooks like the Ultimate Batman Guide being republished in 2024, cementing the idea that Deathstroke is only near equal to Batman and not quite on Bruce's level yet. But whenever Black Canary fights Slade, she either loses or struggles, even against a severely weakened Deathstroke. So what in canon suggests this to actually be true? Many point to Canary's relativity to Lady Shiva, a character many believe to actually be the greatest fighter in the DC universe. But if we look at every encounter the two have, it either ends in complete relativity or a Batman victory, which is supported by DC Comics themselves, telling you that Bruce has beaten her in a fair fight. So at absolute worst, Batman is still in this same tier. So what suggests that Dinah being over Batman is concretely canon? And despite my many disagreements with him politically, I have to respect Chuck Dixon for calling out this bad behavior on Twitter, going so far as calling Tom Taylor a tourist as a writer, which is very important because Chuck Dixon established Nightwing's character within the 90s. Everything we know and love about Nightwing was started and created by Chuck Dixon. And this is where my problem with Tom Taylor comes from. It's the arrogance as a writer to not understand when he's wrong. Fans of the character are telling you that you are going against the consistent characterization of somebody that they see themselves in. And when somebody who has the power to completely ruin somebody's favorite thing, this needs to be taken seriously. Tom Taylor clearly doesn't respect that because he's trolling fans on Twitter for telling him how wrong he is. Kay, who's my friend and Hive Mind co-host, created an entire Twitter thread showing every instance of Batman being regarded as the best martial artist in DC, directly contradicting Taylor's claims about Batman being below Canary as canon. What's Taylor's response? To troll fans on Twitter. So what is the purpose of having a writer who clearly doesn't care about the fans, the characters, or even the company if he's willing to disregard constructive criticism about the work he's creating? And this leads to an even greater question about the quality of comic books and the opinions of writers. How valuable are their words? If we have instances like this where Tom Taylor says one thing, but then another writer who has equal, if not more, authority on the characters says something completely different, which opinion is to be taken as truth? The correct answer is obviously none of them. What happens in continuity is always valued more because it's not just the opinion of one person reflecting all, it is a holistic analysis of everything and put together to create the truth. And we can even utilize Tom Taylor's example to showcase why this is so important. He goes and puts out his opinion that Dinah is better than Batman. But what in his own comic book supports this? Absolutely nothing. because he limited this fight to only boxing, making Batman also only give statements in context to one of their teachers' training, completely ignoring the hundreds of other martial arts training that Batman's received, and limits the combat to shadow boxing where only one attack matters. So, if you never read Tom Taylor's tweet, how could you come to the conclusion that Canary is a better fighter than Batman when they're only fighting in boxing and she only lands one hit? The correct answer is you probably wouldn't. This is because the original intention of the writers is not the only thing that gets put on the paper. It has to go through DC editorial, and it has to be illustrated by an artist who sometimes don't always reflect exactly what the writers intended. Moving on to the next notorious DC writer for bad opinions is Tom King, who began his very first comic book in DC making one of the most horrible writing decisions of all time. Batman and Nightwing square off, with Tom King's original intentions being Batman fighting Nightwing all out, resulting in Nightwing winning this all-out battle. Tom King even doubles down on this on Twitter by putting Nightwing above Batman in skill. But there are major problems with this. It completely disregards the consistent characterization of Batman. Bruce always holds back on anybody with the capacity of dying. Even characters physically superior to him, like Slade, Bruce holds back against. So in what universe is he going all out against Nightwing? Even in current comics written by Joshua Williamson, this is explicitly outlined by Batman when he states that he never wants to fight his children. Within this same fight, Batman also points out how him standing down is an impossibility within his eyes. Do you want to know how Nightwing quote-unquote beats Batman? By Batman conceding the match. So, if you took away Tom King's opinion of the fight outside of what's written in the comic books, if we know Batman never wants to fight his children, always holds back, and doesn't give up in fights, how do we come to the conclusion in that Nightwing fight that Bruce lost while he's going all out? The obvious answer is we wouldn't. That's an impossible conclusion to come to. So why is this automatically true just because one writer says it, disregarding the opinions and the works of all the other Batman writers, especially one whose knowledge should be put into question? If we look at this very same tweet, Tom King outlines that this is the power ranking for Earth 1. Newsflash: none of these comic books take place on Earth 1. The main canon Earth in DC is Earth 0. So why should we take the opinion of a writer who doesn't know continuity? Hell, in his Black Canary Best of the Best comic run, where again he's pushing the opinion that Black Canary is the best fighter ever, he writes in Batman giving us a piece of dialogue where he's never kicked down a tree. But if we go to Batman's Rebirth run, again written by Tom King, we literally see Batman kicking down a tree. Now, I'm gonna give Tom King the benefit of the doubt in him actually believing that Batman's never kicked down a tree. The reason for this would most likely be the artist drew something to reflect both Batman and Bane's past, completely separate to what Tom King wrote in his script, which is why I'm telling you the writer's opinion means very little and the actual work is what matters, because it's a holistic approach to everybody's opinion in DC. Now, despite how trash of writers I think both Tom King and Tom Taylor are for their mischaracterization of my favorite characters, this isn't exclusive to bad writers. Take Grant Morrison, for example, somebody who is recognized as a pretty decent writer. Morrison's interpretation of the DC cosmology was very inconsistent with what was established prior during the Infinite Crisis storyline. He essentially shows the source wall being the wall that separates each individual universe within the multiverse. However, every depiction of the cosmology shows a contradictory stance. This went through editorial and was indeed published. Well, now we're faced with another dilemma. The writer's opinion and interpretation was published into official DC canon, but at this point, all we can do is look at the consistency throughout all of DC canon and come to the conclusion that this is inconsistent. One writer's works don't take precedent over the collective of all DC writers' works. No DC writer is omniscient. nor has any DC writer read every DC book ever. Of course, the same thing applies to Marvel. I just think these examples for DC work a little bit better. And because of that, we can't hold them to the standard of them needing to be correct every single time. They're allowed to make mistakes. But the takeaway of this video is writers' opinions are equally valuable to any opinion ever. What should be held precedent should be the works itself. There are times when writers' statements or opinions can give well-needed context to specific scenarios that we don't understand from the works itself. A good example of this would be Batman Confidential. It was a long-running argument on whether or not Confidential was canon to Batman's history because of its very clear diversions from consistent Batman history. There is no way for us to concretely tell from the works alone whether or not this book can be canon. All we understand is it's official DC published material, so we should take it as canon. But why do things not line up? So I reached out to the writer himself to gain context on the scenario. Him telling me that it's canon allows me to understand the works better. Does that mean he's automatically right? No, it doesn't. Because at the end of the day, he's not omniscient. He doesn't reflect all of DC's opinions. But for my personal understanding of the works, this is a very well-needed addition to the works. Even DC holds the same opinion on DC material published by DC writers. On their website specifically, where they're publishing content on things they have a license for, they usually add a disclaimer saying that the opinions of the publisher of whatever article, post, or whatever's published on the website doesn't necessarily reflect all of DC, because there's always the possibility that the writer is wrong. At this point, you guys should get the memo. Writers are not an omniscient, authoritative source on these books. They are a piece in the overarching puzzle that makes DC continuity. You should never hold their word as God, and you should only use them as supplementary context to the source material. And for writers themselves, if any of you are watching this video, don't be a scumbag like Tom Taylor, who scoffs at the idea that fans who obviously read way more than him can be correct about a character. You have the power to make or break these characters that mean so much to so many people. That's gonna do it for the video. I hope all of you understand writers' role in comic books now and how you should use their words to formulate your own opinions about the works itself. If you enjoy videos like this where me just kind of ranting about topics, then please leave a like and let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in my next upload.